The story. Our story begins just after the conclusion of Prince of Persia Warrior Within. The Prince of Persia makes his way back home to Babylon with Kylena, the enigmatic Empress of Time. But instead of the peace he longs for, he finds his kingdom ravaged by war. Kylena is brutally kidnapped and murdered by a powerful enemy. Her death unleashes the sands of time which strikes the prince. Cast to the streets, hunted as a fugitive, the prince soon discovers that the sands have tainted him. They have given rise to a deadly dark prince, whose spirit gradually possesses him. The characters. The Prince. The Prince of Persia is back from the Island of Time, where he prevented the creation of the Sands of Time and rescued Kylena, the Empress of Time. He eventually changed his fate and escaped death. He is now sailing to his homeland of Babylon, only to discover it ravaged by war and invaded by a powerful enemy. The Dark Prince. The unexpected spreading of the sands of time as the prince returns to Babylon has tainted the prince and given rise to a deadly Dark Prince, whose spirit gradually possesses him. The Dark Prince is a corrupted version of the prince, ruthless, reckless, and sadistic. Farah. Farah has been captured in the palace of her father, the Maharaja of India, and brought back to Babylon as a slave for the new ruler of the town. Inadvertently rescued by the prince, she will try to help him in his quest to defeat Babylon's invader. Kylena. The enigmatic Empress of Time has been rescued from the Island of Time by the prince. Together, the two of them left the island and passed behind them, or so it seems until they arrive in Babylon. In-game interface. Prince. Life. Weapons frame. Sands of Time slots. Power timer. Dark Prince. Life. Sands of Time slots. Power timer. Life bar. Prince. Shows the prince's current state of health. Hard falls, enemy attacks and traps all cost the prince life. If your life bar reaches empty, it's game over, unless of course you undo the mishap by rewinding. Replenish the life bar by drinking water from a fountain or other sources. Dark Prince. Shows the Dark Prince's current state of health. The Dark Prince gradually but constantly loses health and must kill sand creatures and absorb their sand to replenish his health. Sands of Time slots. Shows how much sand the Prince or Dark Prince has collected. Each use of a time power empties one or more sand slots. The sand slots can be refilled by passing close to sand clouds, dead enemies, breakables, etc. Sand can also be collected at certain sand gates. Power timer. Shows how much time is available to rewind. A full timer represents 8 seconds. Weapon frame. Prince only. The weapon frame appears only when the prince picks up a secondary weapon. This frame shows the current state of a weapon. These weapons only sustain a certain number of hits before they break. The powers of time. Thanks to the Dagger of Time, the prince has the ability to control time. He will gain more time powers throughout the game. The Dark Prince shares the same time powers as the prince. Recall. By using this power, the prince can rewind time to cancel any mistake or to avoid any attack. Once he has rewound, he can redo the actions he missed. Press and hold the L1 button to turn back time. When you reach safety, release the L1 button to resume play. Each rewind uses one sand slot. Eye of the Storm. The prince is able to slow down time as he continues to move at the same speed. This allows him to defy speed-limited traps and to fight his enemies while they are slow and helpless. Tap the L1 button to use the Eye of the Storm attack during a fight. This will empty one sand slot. Sand Winds. This power lets the prince do a strong ground attack that simultaneously hurts all the enemies around him. Press the R1 button while blocking with the R1 button. Each sand wind empties 2 sand slots. Sandstorm. This power lets the prince do an even stronger ground attack that simultaneously kills all the enemies around him. This power requires more lead time. Press and hold the L1 button for a few seconds while blocking with the R1 button. Each sandstorm empties 4 sand slots. Moves. Basic moves. The prince and the Dark Prince will automatically climb obstacles. When near a wall, they can also perform a vertical or horizontal wall run and rebound from the wall in the opposite direction. They can chain together rebounds to climb between walls or make diagonal rebounds to reach seemingly unreachable walls. Environment. The prince and the Dark Prince can interact with elements in their environment and perform attacks on these elements. Ledges. Climb, drop, lean and rebound. Ladders, climb and rebound. Columns, climb, rotate and rebound. Poles, lean, drop, swing and rebound. Climb on poles to jump up. Beams, move, drop and jump. Close walls, climb up and down between them. Chain, slide down and climb up. Curtains, slide down and rebound. Plant dagger base, stab the dagger in these to rebound, jump up, wall run or drop. Dark Prince only. The Dark Prince can interact with specific poles by using his dagger tail. This allows him to go to places the Prince is unable to reach. Swing on poles with dagger tail. Chain dagger tail to poles and wall run from there. Mechanisms. The Prince and the Dark Prince can also interact with mechanical elements around them. Boxes. Push and pull boxes to activate mechanisms. Hanging levers. Use the hanging levers to activate machines. Pressure plates. Step on pressure plates to activate certain mechanisms for a short amount of time. Pressure levers. These levers descend as the Prince or Dark Prince hang on them and rise again after they drop. Rotating levers. Use these in different ways, depending on the direction in which they point. Dagger switch. Used to activate machines. Dark Prince only. The Dark Prince can use his dagger tail to interact with specific rings on walls to pull out blocks. Weapons. Prince. The Prince can use the vast array of deadly weapons split into 4 main classes. Each class generates a different experience, as it forces the Prince to use a different fighting strategy. Each weapon can sustain a certain number of hits before it breaks, has a specific range of attack, and deals different amounts of damage. Additionally, each weapon class has a unique special attack. Here are the most common weapons the Prince will find during his journey. Primary weapon, the Dagger of Time, for use with time powers. Secondary weapons, swords, well balanced. Axes, heavier damage, low speed. Maces, grounding on strong attacks. Daggers, powerful for throwing. The Prince can find and use a large number of secondary weapons during the game. They are all consumable and all have different attributes: strength, speed and combo. Dark Prince. The Dark Prince uses his dagger tail, a powerful mid-range chain-like weapon, and the Dagger of Time. Unlike the Prince, he cannot collect any other weapon. Freeform fighting. The Prince and the Dark Prince can master a variety of deadly advanced fighting techniques. They can take advantage of the environment around them, ladders, pillars, walls, and use their superior agility to gain the upper hand on enemies. For each action, you can create custom combo chains throughout the fight and develop a signature fighting style. Speed kill system. The speed kill system allows the Prince and the Dark Prince to perform very dramatic attacks that take down one or several enemies in a single shot. Detection system. Enemies can detect the Prince or the Dark Prince by seeing or hearing them. If enemies detect you, the opportunity for a speed kill will be lost. Sandgate detection system. If the Prince or the Dark Prince is detected by the Sandgate guard, the guard will activate the Sandgate, which will bring new reinforcements. When all enemies around the Sandgate are killed, you can collect Sands of Time rewards by pressing square while standing on the Sandgate. You will collect sand, 1 sand slot or 1 new time power depending on the gate. How to trigger speed kill. When speed kill is possible, you will see the corners of the screen become slightly white, and you will hear a heartbeat. You will have to press the triangle button when this happens in order to start the speed kill. Prince. When the speed kill is activated, you must press the square button at the right moment, indicated by visual cues, black and white screen filter, shining dagger, and audio cues to hit your enemy. Depending on the enemy, the sequence of actions will be different. Dark Prince. When the speed kill is activated, you must press the triangle button repeatedly. Depending on your enemies, the rhythm of actions will be different. If the action is done right, the Prince or the Dark Prince kill the enemy. Otherwise, the speed kill fails and you will have to engage in freeform fighting combat. Chariot race. On occasion during the game, the Prince will drive a chariot in order to chase his enemies or reach faraway places. Use the left analog stick to move the Prince's chariot left and right. Use your chariot to push aside other chariots and crash them. Press square to get rid of enemies who jump on your chariot. Special items. Sand clouds. Sand clouds allow the prince and dark prince to collect sand that will be used to launch time powers. You can find the sand clouds on dead enemies and in some breakable objects. Sands of time will also restore the dark prince's life. You can see how much sand you've collected by pressing the start button at any time in the game. Water of life. Drinking water from a fountain or other source will restore a wounded prince to health. Press and hold the R1 button to drink until your life bar is fully replenished. Sand collected. Allows you to buy special artwork and videos from the extra features menu. Breakable objects. The prince or the dark prince will discover hidden rewards in objects they can destroy. Hints and tips. Use the speed kill system whenever you can, even in boss fights. Double speed kill is possible. Look out for the sand gate guard. He's the only guard who can activate the sand gate and call for reinforcements. While playing the dark prince, always be on the move and kill as many enemies as you can to stay alive. Don't forget to block. You can even block arrows. During combat, use the prince's athletic abilities to stay on the move and take advantage of his surroundings. Walls, pillars, ladders, etc. Don't forget to use your time powers to help you fight and avoid traps, even during chariot races. Use the first person camera to look around and the landscape camera to get a better idea of where you are. While playing as the prince, always remember to pick up dead enemies' weapons. Don't forget to break destructible objects. You may discover hidden rewards. Based on what I've seen on this playthrough and previous playthroughs, the PS2 and PC port are identical. I haven't noticed anything different between the two. Unsatisfying and unengaging combat compared to previous entry. I feel as if the combat is very simplified. It's not as satisfying as Warrior Within. It's still engaging, but somehow it actually gets tedious the more you fight. Boss fights, however, I will say, they've definitely stepped it up over here. I think the boss fights are the ones that stand out the most. The general combat is forgetful, but the boss fights are definitely like a standout for this entry. Counter-attacking is the same as the previous entry. It actually feels like it's a bit easier since most enemies just wait for you to attack, or they only attack you one at a time. So unlike Warrior Within, multiple enemies will attack you at the same time, making counter-attacking a bit challenging. Over here it seems like they just wait for you, except for the archers. They don't seem to care. They'll just ruin your day. The prince's design is cool. I'm not actually sure where you got the body tattoo. You might have had it before the previous entry, but I definitely like the design that they have over here. It's a lot like Warrior Within, but I don't know. They've definitely improved it a bit. There are moments where I think that Warrior Within looks a bit better, but I think costume-wise or attire-wise, when the game starts, I think it's a white hoodie with like Warrior Within's armor. I like that design that he has. Yeah, and it's just the tattoo that I'm not sure about. I'm very confused where he got that, because they never showed a body tattoo like that in Warrior Within. So coming into this game, and as you progress, you just notice that, okay, it's not just the tattoo on his left arm that you see. It's like the whole right side of his body, of his torso, and I think on his back, where you can see that he has a big tattoo. And growing up, I always thought that, oh, he got the tattoo at sea. Then I realized that it was just him and Kylina, and I'm sure Kylina didn't put that on him. The Dark Prince removes the ability to use secondary weapons, which again leads to a simplified combat system. Even though the Dark Prince has his own combat system with the dagger tail, it's very simplified. There are like maybe 3 combos that are very useful. The rest of them, I don't even know if they are worth trying out. I'll admit that I haven't actually delved into the combat system for the Two Thrones, but it seems like it has a lot of variety like Warrior Within, but I feel like just because it's not as satisfying, I haven't actually tried to engage with it. And the Dark Prince especially, there are like 3 combos that I just do with him, and it gets the job done. Unfortunately, I'm optimizing the fun out of the game. The inclusion of the stealth definitely resulted in the simplified combat. Like, playing through it now, I noticed that there were a lot of encounters where you would actually just rely on stealth. Growing up, I never actually noticed that they were introducing stealth to the series at this point. It just seemed like an interesting feature. It still is, but As someone who enjoys the combat system in Warrior Within, I do see how the stealth system actually simplifies, strips back, and actually removes a lot of the combat. And in the same breath, I will say that like it's maybe not that bad of a feature, because I keep complaining that the combat system is simplified. So I actually, now that I say it out loud, I do prefer the stealth system being there.
What is your favorite color?
Color?
The shift in tone. Something that I noticed a few years ago while doing another playthrough. The prince goes from like a very smart-mouthed and arrogant, I mean he's still like that for the whole franchise, I would say. From Sands of Time, he's not as dark in his mannerisms, if I can put it like that. Then obviously moving over to Warrior Within, I think that's 7 years later, being chased by the Darker, desperately trying to survive. He obviously had to put things into perspective, and he doesn't have a lot of time for nonsense. He's very to the point, he's mission driven. And now back to Two Thrones, or coming into Two Thrones, he's a bit more at ease now, knowing that the Darker isn't chasing him anymore. You kind of notice that he's becoming a bit more sarcastic, he's more witty, and I feel like that becomes a bit more impactful thanks to Warrior Within being so dark. It helps sell this idea that the prince is slowly becoming the person who he was, which is not as mission driven, he's witty, sarcastic. In my opinion, the music is very forgettable, save for a few tracks, and I will actually say that most of those tracks that are not forgettable are actually the boss fights. I don't remember much of this game's soundtrack. I definitely remember the Royal Road, where you fight the twins. I think they are twins, I have no idea. The arena battle is one that's been stuck in my head since I finished the game, and the one in the brothel, I think it's the brothel, I'm not sure, or after the brothel, against the chick with the dagger tail. That one is also fairly memorable, but it's mostly just like, I think there are like elements in those songs or in those tracks that stand out and make them more memorable. I will say I like the atmosphere, but it's like, I don't think I'm a big fan of the combat music. I'm certain they use the same track every time, and even though they do that, I don't remember it. Throwing enemies, I think, is gonna be a playstyle that I'm not gonna get rid of anytime soon. It makes for some funny moments. I know in this game it actually made for a bunch of funny moments, mostly because it glitched out. If you're ever like on a rooftop and struggling with an enemy, I would just say throw them off, as spending that time trying to get rid of an enemy is not worth it. Just chuck them. I love that this game ties back to the Sands of Time. Unfortunately, it does kind of create a bit of a paradox, because he starts telling the story. I guess then it's more just like he's telling a story now. It's not something that people around him have experienced. It's nice that it ties back, making the Sands of Time trilogy, like, it just wraps it up nicely. But when you think about it, it's weird, because now he's telling the events of a timeline that doesn't exist anymore, of two timelines that don't exist anymore. Actually, there might be more, but just off the top of my head, I think there are two timelines that don't exist anymore now, because at this point the Sands of Time were never discovered by the Maharaja. He never journeyed. Maybe he did journey to Azad, but then he never met Farah, so how would he tell the story of him meeting Farah, the story of the Darker, everything that's happened so far? I guess at the same time, it's like, it just becomes a story, which is also nice. So it's not really a complaint, it's just I like the fact that they tied it back in a way that, like, you can just play this franchise over and over again, and there aren't that many loose ends. It's just a nice ending. And playing through this franchise again now, it definitely made me think about how games have progressed. There are so many games that I haven't like actually improved on, maybe like the combat system. I haven't seen a lot of games like that besides fighting games. I haven't seen many games with the traversal as smooth or as fluid as this franchise. I have seen a game on YouTube, or footage of a game on YouTube made by a solo developer, I think. It looks like they're taking inspiration from the Prince of Persia franchise for the traversal, but I will say it looks more like it's taking inspiration from the 2018 3, which for me is actually a bit, I don't know how I feel about that, but at the same time, it's like, as long as the game actually has that sense of flow that the franchise has, I might actually just play it. I noticed that the book doesn't actually bring up the vizier, which is surprising. Not in a bad way, just like interesting to notice. They never give away the story in this one. They give you like plot points, which is nice. I do think that like they've improved a little bit over there. I mean, Warrior Within had no story read up, but yeah, they never mention the vizier. They just allude to him as like a powerful enemy that's invaded Babylon. Thinking about what they've done with the Sands of Time booklet, they straight up say the vizier, he's done this, he's done that. I think it's been a while since I've read that, so I don't know. They also don't bring up the fact that there are two endings in the previous game, but I feel like Kalina makes that clear. I think that's a very first line in the game actually, so there's no need for the book to go over that. There's actually a bunch that I've learned about the game reading through it now. Again, like Warrior Within, learning about the different weapons, how they vary from speed, durability and strength, and each of them have a special charge attack, which I didn't know about. Definitely something that I want to keep an eye out for during my next playthrough. If you've made it this far in the video, I think all that I can say is thank you for watching. I've learned a lot from these 3 games. I'm definitely getting a bit more comfortable talking on the mic, but yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.